Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Tuesday. Things are kind of normal here, which is scary. I don't understand that when that happens.
Don't say anything.
I know, seriously. So two quick things I have. First off, my love of Mexican Coke, and
Yeah.
I know, Mike. I know you have a love-hate relationship with Coke yourself.
Well, I love it, but I love it, but my body hates it because I'm a diabetic. So
I only drink Coke. I drink Diet iced tea. You guys have seen me drink it many times. I should
Love
probably endorse it. But I drink Diet iced tea all day long. I go through, like, no joke, probably 15 a day.
15 a day?
Yeah, 15 a day.
You're gonna have so much NutraSweet in your system.
I do worry about that a lot. I do.
I honestly.
Can I suggest something very easy?
Please.
Okay.
Unsweetened.
Yeah, I just go unsweetened. What I do is I have a Mr. Coffee iced tea maker, right?
Yeah.
What I do is,
I used to have one of those. I had one of those before. Yeah.
okay, and what I pick out is the base, and my base is usually either green or black, and then I mix in some flavors, whether it's peppermint, I have anise, I got all this stuff, mix in the flavors, and then you can live without the artificial sweetener.
Do that. I need to do something like that. Sorry, is my thing coming in and out?
It's a little fuzzy, but the hack looks spectacular.
It was good before.
All right, all right.
The hack does not look like you were just delivered by a doctor in a
one quick second.
an adult nursery. It doesn't look that way.
I'm gonna change my internet connection. I don't know if I'll get logged out. One quick second. Hold on.
now we just get this picture of him going.
Okay.
That's better. That's better.
Now I'm back, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, but I do, like, for me, like, since I don't drink alcohol, when I go out, but Coke is my, like, special drink, like that I've made into my thing. Like, I'll drink that at restaurants, or if I'm out with friends.
I drink Coke, sure.
Or if I go, like, to a special, like, I do it around here. When we have parties, I'll get the Mexican Coke. Usually if I have a Mexican Coke here, it's because we just had a party here. But normally just I see. So a friend of mine who knows this, who's a Pepsi fan. Now, like, the whole thing of Pepsi versus Coke to me is another battle altogether. But
right.
Pepsi just came out with this thing. And I don't know if you saw this or not yet.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Seen it?
I've seen it, but I haven't tried it.
I tried it, but just to try it because I knew eventually I'd have to talk about it.
This is your time. You got to talk about it. So what do you think of it?
I think it's terrible because Pepsi is terrible.
Wait, hold on. All right, that just sounds like a jaded opinion. Like,
no,
you're not, like, don't compare it to Coke, because Coke is its own thing. It tastes different than Pepsi, right?
No, but you know what? Pepsi.
I have to be discriminating. It's like either I like Coke. Well, some people like Coke and Pepsi. They don't care.
I don't care.
I decided, like, if it's a 95-degree day and there's an ice cold Pepsi there, okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay. But if I have a choice,
right,
I prefer Coke because Coke it's got a little, like, a saltier quality to it. Yeah. And it's Pepsi is too sickly sweet.
It is a little sweet. I like it when it's more flavored, like whether it's wild cherry or something. And I mix that actually with the diet, and this way it's not too much sugar, not too much diet with the NutraSweet. But that's only if you're at a fountain. But there was a product that Pepsi had. It was like Pepsi Real or something, like a year ago.
Oh, Real.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. But they did away with it. I actually thought that was as good as any Coke that was ever made. But it did away with it.
I don't mind the Coca-Cola Life, the one that's in the green, the green label, but which is stevia.
Splenda, right? Basically, stevia is Splenda.
Well, no, I mean, stevia is a different. They did make Coke with Splenda, and it was terrible because Splenda, if you know, basically like a packet, the size of a NutraSweet packet, is about the same sweetness as like three teaspoons of coffee. Okay. So I don't think they had the balance right, because you drank the Coke with Splenda and it was like so ridiculously sweet that I couldn't drink it. It was just really bad. But honestly, I'm trying to, like, only on like special occasions will I drink Coke or any kind of pop. It's like I'm trying to just drink water and carbonated water because
that's good.
I can tell you two things. First off, I don't. At Passover time, if you were to order cases of the kosher Coca-Cola, it's the same as the Mexican, and so
I'd like to try that.
You could do that. That's one thing.
Because the difference between Mexican Coke and regular Coke here is corn syrup versus sugar, right? So
right,
sugar,
and the same thing with the kosher is it's cane sugar.
right.
So the other thing is
also Pepsi. This is Pepsi. It says, if you can see it on here, it says it's made with actual sugar.
Yeah. And I think I would like that, Russ, because we all know that Italians are unofficial Jews.
Right, that's true. The other thing is, back in the day when I used to be working as a deli clerk, this is a long time ago. This is when I chopped off
that's like
and all that. They used to have Snapple soda, and the Snapple all natural cola was actually better than any cola on the market, and it was clear. It was clear, if you remember.
Well, Coke, what I've been told is that the Coke is clear by its nature. They make it not clear, right? So
they should leave it clear. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'd try it.
And they did for a while. Remember, they had they had Coke Clear or Pepsi Clear. They had something.
They had Pepsi Clear.
It was Pepsi Clear. Yeah.
Right. It's to me, like, the funny thing about this is and there's someone in the chat room brought this up too, that Coke in Europe is different than Coke in the United States, which is true because the Mexican Coke in Europe too, or just Coke with sugar versus Coke with corn syrup, basically. But
I was gonna say in Europe it's a powder and it's put in lines.
Right, that's another line altogether, right? By the way, I just watched the TV series Glow. I binge watched that. Have you guys watched it?
I know.
Oh, yeah, Glow. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
I hate wrestling, guys. I'm not like a wrestling person at all.
I love wrestling. Back in the day, I tried to actually watch that wrestling, and it was awful. But
I do remember the Glow thing when I was a kid.
The show about it is great, and Mark Maron's fantastic.
Oh, that show is amazing, Mike. I'm serious. Like,
I'll check it out.
You don't have to be a wrestling person at all. The acting.
I haven't gotten around to it. That's all.
Heck, I want to let you know that you may not have heard the joke I made about your hat, but you're distracting the entire chat room with that hat. I'm just telling you.
Oh, okay. So what's going on in the chat room with the hat? Tell me. All right, I'll check it out in a second. Here.
You guys
are curious about the chat room. I got a lot of questions about this too. If you go to the YouTube channel where this is actually being broadcast, so hopefully you're watching this on my blog, because that would be better for us. But if you're not, if you click on the YouTube part of it, you can go to the YouTube channel and then you can do a pop out chat as well. You'll see the chat on the right hand side, and it's easy to do. And it's fun because we actually, Russ is in there every day. I try to get in there whenever Russ isn't here, and I'm in there today.
We can make our discussions interactive that way. So
yeah, it's fun because we know, you guys are out there. If you guys want to have a question, we'll get to some questions sometimes. So my hat is this is an original from back in the day. When I visited, I was up in Quebec. Probably
I was gonna say somebody threw some bleach in the wash because it's a little
remember, this was the color that the Nordiques were before. Remember, they had these colored jerseys.
I think Woody Allen wore that in Sleeper, though. I have to go double check it. I do.
Why do you say that?
Just the way it looks. Like I said, it looked like you were a baby that was delivered in an adult nursery. And they wrapped you in that hat.
Thanks, Russ. I really appreciate that.
Let's start this.
It's a great thing to start. Now, one more thing real quick before we start, because I had to bring this up too, because I saw this last night. I saw it for the second time last night. I went to see Bohemian Rhapsody again. There's been a long time since I've actually gone to a movie theater, gone and seen a movie twice in the theaters ever. I can't
think of the last time I've done that.
I know it's not. I can't remember the last time I did either. I think it might have been Star Wars, one of the Star Wars ones that came out, the first new one came out. And it's only because I wanted to go with friends, different times.
Yeah, it was Dark Knight Rises for me.
Yeah. So have you guys seen Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yes,
I have not yet.
I've seen it.
Okay. Did you talk about it all while I wasn't here or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we did, and I loved it. I thought it was terrific. It is not a documentary, so for people who are thinking it's a documentary, it's not. And the fact that if Brian May rubber stamped it, that's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand. I was smart enough to understand, because I was at Live Aid and watched the stuff from Wembley Live, that they had a little literary license with that, and not everything you see exactly is what happened at Live Aid. I get that. And actually, I felt like what they did was they improved on it, because they were able to show better angles and close-ups of Freddie Mercury, or the actor, of the way he sort of commanded the crowd at Live Aid, and a little bit of behind the scenes. So I thought all of that was great. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the story. I didn't know about his ethnicity. I was dumb to that my entire life.
I know either.
Yeah,
I knew he was from Zanzibar.
I did not know that.
It was
Farouk Balsara was his real name.
I mean, you can get around. I mean, there's definitely they took liberties. They made, and there's a good YouTube video out there about 10 things that were true and 10 things that weren't true about that were actually about this movie as far as historical goes. But you get past that for a second. It's the best movie I've seen in like 5 years. I know there's something. I mean, I just literally, and now I'm in the music industry. As you guys know, I started in the music industry before I was in the hockey industry, and it's not even about being in the music industry at all. There's a little bit of the dynamic of like being in a band and being, all, I grew up. My band was also my friends, so I got that. You grew up together, saying, I mean, my friends. I'm talking about friends from like third grade in my band, but so that's where this goes to. But just. If you cannot get out, I cannot get out of this movie. The second time I cried the first time I saw it, and you know what's happening, you know what's going on. I cried even more the second time I saw it. How weird is that? Like it hit
That's
me.
a little weird, but it's okay. I mean,
harder. I mean, and I'm not like a guy who like balls it.
No, but it evoked emotion out of you. That's okay.
It really just feels like you're on this incredible journey. The music is so well done. Really, really, really well done. I thought. The way they did it, the way they had the band, I know it's not all 100% accurate how they wrote songs like that, but it is cool the way they show the creations of the various songs.
Yeah, I thought so.
That was really neat. And the guy who plays Freddie Mercury is no question should win the Oscar for that. I mean,
people got crazy when he won 2 Golden Globes. I was like,
no, it's insane. Like if you watch, if you look at side by sides of them, like from the Live Aid thing,
he looks just like him. But I can't really say anything in terms of because I haven't seen the movie yet. And I'm going to go see it, but there was a very heavy campaign when it came to the Golden Globes, and then lobbying for they may not get nominated for Best Picture for the Oscars. Russ.
Yeah, I know, and they should. I mean, they really should. I mean, this kind of movie, it's so worth seeing. Like it is so.
I mean, I love Queen. Queen is one of my favorite bands. So I mean,
they weren't even one of my favorite bands. I don't, I had them on my iPod because I liked them. When I was growing up, they were on a long list of bands I liked, but I never got around to seeing them except for Live Aid. But they enveloped you, whether you were a fan or not. You were keenly aware of them, and whether you listened to the radio or not. And so I think they impacted everybody's lives that way, and I think that's why this movie, it was fun to learn about it. Even in the House Party X, some people wrote like, "Oh my God, it was way overdone," and it's like, no, Freddie Mercury was way overdone, so you couldn't.
Yeah, you can't overdo Freddie Mercury.
No, you couldn't have overdone that scene.
I mean, they actually played it down, I think, with him.
I think so too.
In that they only had like a few moments, but there were some really classic moments where he was all decked out. My favorite scene in the movie, and then we'll get on with this, but my favorite scene in the movie, and I'm not giving away, there's nothing to give away, Mike. You'll see it.
You'll still want to see it.
Titanic, the boat sank.
Right, you know the story. But just the movie with the scene where he's having a party at his house, and he comes down in the the robe and the crown and everything like that, and his band is there too.
Yeah,
and they're just sitting like with their wives like around and on couches talking to each other about all kinds of stuff. And there's this crazy because the band was not like nearly like that. They weren't flamboyant like that at all. They were just.
I don't know, Roger. I think Roger Williams was.
It was a little bit, but Roger Taylor. Not to that. Not to, of course, the level of
Roger what? Sorry.
Roger Taylor.
Roger Taylor. Sorry. I think he was.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was interesting how that. So I've been in situations like that where the band is just there to be like supporting or whatever. They're hanging out and everything, and they're just. And he sits down and is looking kind of ridiculous, but all the people like they're there. A lot of the artist community and stuff like that were there. I thought he was amazing, and he sits down with his band, which is his friends, and it's like sitting down with the guys, and they're looking at him like that's a lot, And they were kind of ribbing him on it a little bit. It was very real to me. Like the whole thing felt like incredibly interestingly real. And the last thing I'll say about it, and I said that would be the last thing, but last thing I said is I'm watching with my wife, and we both said the interesting thing about Queen and even Bowie in that era, was that that. Hovering between asexual, bisexual, gay, heterosexual, and how androgynous, and how a band or Bowie gets so huge that way. When you think about who they're playing to, like a lot of these rock guys and stuff like that, in that era when that stuff was way more underground, we were trying to figure out why it was so accepted versus like there didn't seem to anybody homophobia about.
Well, no. It was accepted at shows and in the music world.
Oh yeah, I know it wasn't other places, but it was accepted on a large.
It really wasn't. Wasn't.
I'll just say this: it was one thing when somebody like Rob Halford from Judas Priest and it was heavy metal. It was like, very masculine rock, and he came out that he was gay.
Yeah.
That there was a reaction to that, and it sort of undercut Judas Priest. No, anybody. I mean, the flamboyance. I mean, I honestly, I could care less. It was the music. The music was phenomenal. Bowie is phenomenal. The Queen is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think, and I could care less too. But we have such a world.
But I think the quality of their music was so great
that like guys could get on their back, like, really like rough and tumble, like sports guys could get up and go scream, sing the Queen while he's doing these obviously, and I think that obviously, like moves that they would be uncomfortable with if they were just like in a club and they saw somebody doing this, right? So I thought that was awesome. I thought the way they did that was awesome, and it really did hit me so well. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Let's move on. Go to the show.
Please.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, January 15th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen, and if you go to sportsology.com, I ranked the top singers of all time and had Freddie Mercury #1.
Did you really? Wow.
I did.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. I don't know if I agree with that, but it would be a great debate.
We'll do some music shows in the summer.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure.
This is every summer. It's never happened. Go ahead.
This is the podcast that brings you all the hockey comings and goings in the world of sports. And I thought there was a really interesting transition that came from our chat room when B Cup says, "I cried last night too when Gardner made the turnover shorthanded."
Well, I'll just say this because I have written something.
It'll be. You have, and I want to get into that a little bit. And then we're going to move off the Leafs, I promise, guys. But
yeah, it'll be posted after the show.
Right. Well, we never talk about the Leafs.
Yeah, no, not at all. And the general theme, and I was telling Russ about this, the general theme of this is, Jake Gardner is what he is. Jake Gardner has been in the league for 8 years. I've long been a critic of his play, but there are positives to his game. He's a very good offensive defenseman. But Gardner is sort of a victim of the failings of the Maple Leafs' larger problem, which is, as I've said many a time, get ready to drink, Russ. They're the fact of the lack of depth on their blue line. Now, this is the thing. Gardner is, I think, the modern day Mike Green. He's a good offensive defenseman. Defensively, he is sometimes borders on inept, but that's not kind. I'd say he will make flubs frequently. But the problem is that because, and I'll put more of the blame on Lou Lamoriello over the last couple of years, they failed to get Ryan McDonough last year at the deadline. They failed to get Travis Hamonic in the summer of 2017 when he was available with the Islanders. Their way of addressing the top four was to sign a 35-year-old Ron Hainsey and to sign and extend Nikita Zaitsev, who had scored 35 points in his rookie year, 34 or 35 points in his rookie year. And then after signing him to a 7-year extension, telling him, okay, we want you to be a defensive shot blocking defenseman because we have nobody that can actually do it. That's a failing of management and a failing of the coaching staff, because Mike Babcock uses Jake Gardner the most 5-on-5 than any other defenseman on his team, more than Morgan Rielly, who's probably a Norris Trophy candidate. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, when Gardner had his ice time managed by Babcock, where he didn't put him out most of the time against top lines, he had his best statistical year. So because of what's going on right now, he is a victim of the fact that this team has not addressed their problems.
Yeah, I think that's totally legitimate, and I think that, and I think that I mean the whole concept of booing, and all that. I mean, we've seen. There are many different ways to break this down. I don't want to get into too many different ones, but the concept of booing a player like that, and the concept of booing in general is something that I think is always an interesting topic of discussion. I don't really have a problem with it at all.
No.
Like I think it's perfectly acceptable for fans to boo. They pay their money. They want to see people working hard, and as long as they're fair in their booings. But then I've also seen it get to the point of ridiculousness too, like where.
Well, I mean, Larry Murphy got driven out of Toronto.
Yeah, he's an example of that, and in Philadelphia, we had guys like Doug Crossman and different people like that too.
All right, but you know what? Here's what I think as far as the booing, though, that if we cover the sport, which all of us do, then all we should do is talk about the booing and why it's happening.
Yeah.
We should never be the people, and I saw this online, and it was brought to our attention, to Mike's and mine, writers telling the fans what they should boo at and what they shouldn't. We don't have the right to do that. No. All we should be doing is covering the fact that this is being booed or that's being booed. But we shouldn't be doing like opinion pieces on what you should boo at or what you're allowed to boo at, because I think that's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I am not the arbiter of what fans should think. They are. Now, and okay, Jake Gardiner, over the last 3 games, he had a bad giveaway against New Jersey that ended up in a Brian Boyle goal. He had a bad giveaway against Boston that ended up in Sean Corrali's goal, and he had a really bad miscue where he got outfought by Soderberg on the shorthanded goal yesterday. Did he deserve to be booed? That's up to the fans. I'm not going to advocate one way or the other. I said when that goal happened, it was a Jake Gardiner special, because he does that constantly. If you have to limit his exposure, his offensive game is a plus player. His defensive game is a minus player. So you got to accentuate the positive with him, maybe limit his ice time a little bit. And if they had other defenders that could do that, that could alleviate that, then they would be a much better team. They're struggling right now because not only are they not scoring, not only has their goaltender just come back from an injury, but their defense is playing like their defense is played most of the time, which is bad.
So what are we in, year 3 of Babcock?
4.
So this is the year we all, at the beginning, when we talked about the pain and Babcock and everything, we knew there would be a time when it would come back on him and he would start to get judged harsher and possibly even negative articles being written about him. And I think it's starting now. And I think the Leafs are doing it and fans are a year later than I thought, but it's starting now. And if they did have an early exit in the playoffs, it would be full blown this summer. Like this is the schedule we're on right now.
I agree with the signing of Tavares. The expectation is going. Matthews in his third year. Marner in his 3rd year. Nylander in his 4th year. The expectation is these guys now are experienced. Matthews and Marner are on the last year of their entry level. They bring in the big gun in Tavares. They've got a goaltender who's up, basically, unless he completely falters, will be up for the Vezina in Anderson. Riley will probably challenge for the Norris Trophy. It should be there, or they're close enough where if Dubas makes a couple moves, they could advance. But the problem is, as you well know, Russ, they're in a division with Tampa and a team in Boston that has their number, that is a matchup problem for them. And I got a message from somebody who was watching the game and says, I am sick and tired of this team not having any jam. And that's the thing. Against a team like Boston, you cannot simply turn the other cheek. You have to be able to push back against those teams. And literally, other than Zach Hyman and Nazem Kadri, who the hell is going to push back on the Maple Leafs right now? That's just as important as being able to score goals or stop pucks, is to prevent your opposition from pushing you around.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly
think what's going to happen. Sorry, you can go first, Dak, if you want.
No, you can go.
I was going to say, so we know what's going to happen here. It's the same as like shopping for gifts for loved ones. You're shopping and you have X and Y in mind, and then you find out you go for X and it's not the right size, or you can't get it, or they're out of it. And then you go to Y and it doesn't happen. And then Z is what you end up settling on, which is still good, but it's never going to be X and Y. And this is what the Leafs have been doing the last 2 years.
Right.
It's settling for these other defensemen that don't solve the problem, but sort of put enough of a Band-Aid that they get through it. And it seems like they're setting themselves up for that again. It really does.
Yeah. They really need to. I mean, like I heard a rumor about Michael Furland and them, and I do think that makes a ton of sense with Toronto. Just
it would help him, but he's not gonna.
No, but in terms of bringing like some actual grit to them beyond, because
he can play in the top 9. So I could see that.
He's talented, but he also when he fights really well.
He's not a big fighter though. He's not.
He's been in fights, and then
actually the biggest thing we talked about it when you were off one day. The shooting percentage on him is off the charts because he's not getting a lot of ice time in Calgary, and so he's got like 9-10 goals, and his shooting percentage is great this year.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. There's a lot. I mean, Toronto has shown that and I heard this on I guess Sports at noon today on Sportsnet, Sports Central, Hockey Central at noon, where they said there is, and I do agree with this. I think Mike, you've written about this too, is the fact that you have things that work in October and November where that don't work now, and that's what's going on a lot with Toronto as far as when teams start tightening up and you start getting into these quasi lower scoring games or just a different kind of game. You can't just rely on your skill to get through all the time.
And not only the big, it's important that you get production throughout your lineup, not only from your blue line, but from your third and fourth lines. The Toronto third line has played terribly the last few weeks. Marleau, Kadri, and Nylander. Their fourth line is basically not like, and Par Lindholm scored a goal that was reversed off for an offside. It would have been his first goal since October 13th. This was their big, not big, but he was the guy. He's our fourth line center. We signed him out of the SHL. He's a veteran guy. He's going to come in and fill that hole. And he's played on the wing most of the year. And they played Freddie Gauthier, who I may be a very nice guy, but he is not an NHLer. And I told Russ yesterday, says, you watch the Leafs, because Babcock is asking for heavier players, and Furland would be a guy in that direction. But they're going to go out and trade for a fourth-line center again because they keep they did it with Brian Boyle. They did it with Thomas Plekanec, who's not a heavy player at all. But they're going to go out and trade for a fourth-line center. But
I got the guy. I know Kyle Dubas was in Russia watching the KHL.
Andronov.
And there's a guy who plays for Vityaz Podolsk. He's 6'2", 189. He can play the right wing or the left wing. He's got 18 goals and 18 assists in 44 games. It's Alexander Semin. He would be a great fit. I would love to see Alexander Semin.
Shut up.
He's only 34 years old. Come on.
I know. I heard he's pretty good. Yeah. All right. So moving on, though. It's rare that I would say this, but I'm going to say something that I think might get some criticism here. So, that's not rare.
Shocking.
But, as far as you guys go. But anyway, here goes. We're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers for a second. The Oilers, we're not going to get in deep with the Oilers.
But career win last night. That's what you're going to say.
No, yesterday, Ryan Rashog of TSN puts out this tweet that we all talked about. Says the Oilers organization is full court press to find help at forward, scouts and staff deployed in mass. Cap situation makes it tough, but a first-round pick, a goaltender, maybe young, developing forward like that, like all are in play. Mm-hmm. I think it's rare to say this, but I really feel comfortable that you can say that because this started such a crazy reaction throughout social media yesterday, through Twitter and everybody else. Elliot Friedman responds to it, all these people respond to it. I think this actually helped the Oilers last night. I feel as if, that you can actually say that a social media tweet made the Oilers play better because they really, they were shooting more. They were more on top of their skates. And, They put in 7 goals. They haven't put in 7 goals forever.
Mike knows what helped. Okay.
No, you know what helped them? They played a slumping Buffalo Sabres team.
That helped too, no question about it.
Carter Hutton crash into earth.
But you don't think that something like this plays into it? I think
actually, you want to be honest? If I was a GM, I would call Ryan Rashad and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not happy with that tweet because A, I'm not sure it's exactly what's going on here, and B, that makes us look desperate. I wouldn't be happy with that.
No,
they're never going to call because they never call.
But the thing is though, and I think it sends a message of desperation. And Elliot Friedman chronicled this on Hockey Central today. The Oilers are taking this sort of proactive stance about we got to make the playoffs. Not just for that reason. That would be enough, but the billing for the corporate boxes for the next 3 years. That
they're 3 year cycles, right? So
yeah, it's going out in the next couple weeks, and they want to show that, oh, we're involved, we're trying our utmost to make this team. Okay, fine. How about doing that's your job 24/7? This team is a joke right now. Other than Connor McDavid, they are a joke.
no,
They have not addressed their problems. They've made half measures on defense. I think Clefbaum's a good defenseman, but the Adam Larson for Taylor Hall deal was a complete and utter disaster. Signing Chris Russell for $4 million a year is stupid. They've got some good young players. I like Darnell Nurse. I think that Nugent Hopkins is a very good player. Dreisaitl's a good player. But yesterday, Eureka, Milan Lucic and Zach Kassian finally proved that they were alive. They actually did something. This organization is a train wreck right now.
I don't want to get into it too much, but I don't understand how you and Russ, if you think they're a joke as well, you can say they're a joke. But how you guys can sit there and when you pick them to not make the playoffs at all and take them to be so far out of it,
yeah,
and yet here they are in the playoffs as of today.
Everybody's in the playoffs right now in the West.
It doesn't matter. So how can you sit there and call them a joke when they're outperforming what you thought they could do?
I wouldn't call them a joke because I think a joke would be you're in last place, and they're not in last place.
You guys picked them to be almost in last place, both of you.
Yeah, and I stick with that.
I didn't pick them in last, but I didn't pick them.
I picked them out of the playoffs.
Right, and honestly, actually today they're still sitting out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
well, they're tied in points.
But they're on the outside. They played an extra game.
The joke of this is they have by leaps and bounds the best player in the NHL, and they are still outside of the playoffs. And that is a symptom of the fact that the general manager of that team over a span of years has made bad signings, bad trades. And, you have a cornerstone player like McDavid, and you failed to build around him. So, I mean, that's the joke. This team with that talent of a player should be in the top 3 in the Pacific Division. And the fact that they're not is a joke.
Yeah. All right.
They're not great. I will
think they would be in the top 3 in the division, though. So you're sitting there and you're saying they should be in the top 3 in the division. You knew he did McDavid better than you thought he would be?
I think McDavid's the best player in the league.
Right. So I mean, but the rest of the between like saying that they are terrible.
They have Ty Ratty on their number 1 line. They have Ty Ratty on their first line.
I know that. I know all that was I mean, that was what they were doing in the regular.
But that's why I predicted them to finish out outside the playoffs.
Right. And you predicted them to do that, and yet they aren't there. They're better than that.
Well, let's wait till the end of the season here. I mean, right now we're at 43, 44.
I know, but I'm just saying. But you're talking about where they are right now, and I am not saying that. I mean, I'm disappointed with their play, but I picked them higher than this, so I can say that.
Right, and we'll find out who's right in the middle of April.
It's interesting. Like I don't think that. I think that to call them a joke is really overstating it because it's just they are not.
Yeah, I think that's extreme. I agree with that.
I tend to be hyperbolic. Okay.
Okay, so. I understand that, and this is radio or podcasting or whatever you want to call it. But I get that. But at the same time, they aren't that. I mean, they're right where a lot of people thought they would be, or above where a lot of people thought. No. Let's
not go there because a lot of people were on your side and saying they were going to win. They were going to win first place in the Pacific.
No, they were not. They were not. You forget, Mike. Come on now. You find me one other person who had them predicted in first in the division.
All right, Russ. Mike, do that.
Let's say a lot of people. If you find one, maybe. But if you say a lot of people had them picked in first, I didn't find.
But a lot of people had them in the playoffs, and
in the playoffs for sure. But.
All right, let's switch it for 1 second because last night the Flyers Wild game was a crazy, made no sense, throw statistics out the window kind of game, crazy bounces. Like even Devin Dubnyk after the game was just like, hey, you know what? It's just one of those weird games. But here's what I took out of it. Not for the Flyers end, but from the Wild end because I was being asked in the chat room what I think they should do or could do. I think they're surviving okay without Dumba. Like obviously they're missing that big shot. And since they're missing that big shot, I think they're going to have to trade for some offense because like Coyle and Cunnin were -4 last night. And actually, and this is a little knock on Boudreau, those guys are a little older. I get it. but they weren't having good games. Eriksson Ek was having a really good game, had an assist. He only got 11 minutes of ice time. I get he's only 21, but he plays a lot better and a lot smarter than that. And I think Boudreau still gets stuck in playing more veterans or guys that have more experience, and it's very hard as a young player to break in. But what I did notice was an awful lot of passing. Their skating's great. Like if they would have just stuck with their skating and had one or two less turnovers, they would have easily beaten the Flyers. But they got into this weird, just this weird kind of game where they were just trading goals, and it was crazy. But
yeah,
I do think they need a goal scorer, and I think even if they have to divest of a guy like Michael Granlund to get it, I think it's fine because Granlund is a great assist guy, but they've got too many of those assist guys. And if you're counting on like Stahl, Parisi, those guys to actually score your goals, you don't really have a 30-goal scorer on this team. Right. Parisi is probably the guy because he's got 19, but Zucker will get you right around 30. He's got 13, but they only have 5 guys in double-digit goals, and one of them was Dumba. So they need to replace Dumba's goal-scoring ability, and that, I think, should be number one. If they do that, I think they'll be okay because I do think their defense was good enough. I mean, it's thin right now, like for their standards, but still their top 4 is good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, their top 4 is really good. They like you say, they work hard. They move the puck around really well.
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest game for the goalie.
No.
Van Riemsdyk
scored. Either goalie. Carter Hart did not have a great game either.
I didn't have a great game, and I saw what you wrote in our checks. But I think the thing that I will say about Carter Hart, and I'm not saying that they should keep him up here because I don't think they should either. But I will say this: that I think the team has a better chance coming back with him in goal because they trust him a little bit more.
I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair.
Think that he's not going to let up a really terrible.
I'll share what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it, and I believe that it's true. When you saw the matchup with Carter Hart against Mackenzie Blackwood, Mackenzie Blackwood, look, Carter Hart will never be 225 pounds of muscle like Mackenzie Blackwood, but he's 2 years older. He's played more pro hockey. He's had a chance to work out more, and the lower body is much stronger. What teams are starting to figure out, and they did it on the first goal last night, and they tried, and they got at least one more other goal by just jamming it in, because if you get Hart moving even slightly, he doesn't really have the length strength of a veteran NHL goalie just yet, where he could just hold you off with his leg and you can't jam the puck by him. And so he's going to give up 1 or 2 of those a game, even though he played really well after the 4 goals. And one of them you could say, hey, it's Hag's fault because they pushed a guy into him. All that said, this is why a 20-year-old still has to get sort of his body built up a little bit more. He hasn't had a chance to work out that much over the years because he's been playing in junior hockey and the schedule is pretty rigorous. And this summer could be big for that. Then if he comes in with a little more muscle and a little bit more core strength, fine. I'm okay with it.
It's tough as a goalie to build up muscle because of the flexibility issues. Like you have to – it's really hard, and it does take time. I think that, I talked to somebody in the Flyers organization about Carter Hart over the weekend, and I kind of agreed with what they said, and I don't think you'll agree with it, but either of you will agree with it necessarily. But I kind of do agree that they said that the kind of guy he is, he's too young to be here right now. And yes, he's not strong enough yet to be here right now. But because the Flyers are in the situation they're in, which is, where they have, there's not a whole lot of pressure on them to absolutely, no one's expecting Carter Hart to save them necessarily.
Right.
That he is such an intelligent goalie that they wanted him to learn the NHL as quickly as possible and not learn the AHL. I thought that was an interesting comment because I can see learn
the AHL. I don't buy it because
they're very different. They're very different leagues in terms of
they are, but you're not learning the AHL. All you're basically doing is learning your craft.
I think learn the AHL, but but Carter Hart's craft is very, very strong. It's just what he doesn't know yet is the little things, like you'll see the way Tarasenko scores the goal the other day, or the kind of shot, the little shots that the kind of skill that he's never seen, right? That no one can see until you play against it.
Right. So let me ask you this. This is my devil's advocate. Mm-hmm. So what if he goes a month without a road win? You don't think that's going to affect him mentally? We could all say, hey, he's very mature and this is great and that's great. that kind of stuff wears on veterans.
The one benefit of the fact that I've covered the AHL for a number of years, the one benefit of repetition in the AHL is, you can make a mistake in the AHL and the puck won't go in the net. You make a mistake in the NHL, that's by you.
Yeah,
I think that you have to. It's not only the physical maturity that has to be a factor in the development of a player. It's the mental maturity. And maybe he's sharper and maybe he's more ready than some other 20-year-old kid.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah, but
whether or not he's ready enough yet is the question. He's definitely more ready than most.
I just don't know what is to be gained of putting him in for loss after loss after loss. This is not Tom Glavine in the major leagues with the Atlanta Braves, where he's getting his ass kicked every day, and or every fourth day in the rotation, and then after 3 years he realizes how he has to pitch. I think a goaltender after 2 or 3 years of taking this kind of abuse is ready for a straitjacket.
Like, here, let me ask you this, X. So last year, if I remember correctly, I think he played 41 games. How many games do you want him to play this year?
Oh, yeah. No, I know. You're right. I mean, and
it's in a short amount of time. Go look at the February schedule.
Yeah, we played 41 games. You also played a bunch of games with the junior team. And
yeah, but it's not like, all right, so you want to add another 12 games? Fine.
Yeah, so something like 60 games is what he played last year, probably at the end of the day.
Not 60 NHL games.
No, I know, but the point I'm trying to say is, it's not like you have to learn the AHL. I shouldn't have said learn the AHL, but you have to learn the NHL. And the NHL is definitely one of those things that I don't know that it matters as much if he's getting scored on, as much as he is the kind of kid who, from every indication, and I talked to the coach about this too, is that he analyzes every goal that's scored on him and goes through it and through it and through it. And that process is accelerated by him being in the NHL, because you're going to have more opportunity to look at goals, and he does not just take a goal and say, oh, I missed that, I should have made the save. He analyzes what he did wrong on every single play.
Sure, but he's already played 10 games.
Yeah.
If he stays up with them the rest of the season, he's going to play like 40 games. He already played 17 down in the AHL. It's too much.
Yeah, and honestly, as we get closer to February 25th, and we know that Fletcher is probably going to deal Simmons and maybe deal a couple other players, and the team will be weaker than they are right now. Again, what is the benefit of having Carter Hart face 40+ shots a night? I don't know. That's
but it just makes him better for next year. He learns the process. He learns what you're saying is he's too it's going to emotionally scar him, and I don't think it is. I don't think he's the kind of goalie that's going to be emotionally scarred by this. That doesn't seem to be the impression that I'm getting from people around him, at least. Now that they could be wrong, and
you don't see it right away. That's the thing.
The ramifications of it are not going to be apparent now. They could be apparent 2 years from now.
But at that point, how can you really? I mean, this isn't scientific enough to be able to tie those things together. Like,
yes, it is. Go ask Steve Mason. Yes, it is.
Well, Steve, all right, yeah, listen, I'm just throwing my opinion out there. I mean, you might.
Let me give you what a supposed thing, okay? Mm-hmm. So, in the first 23 days of February, the Flyers play 11 games. Mm-hmm. How many of those do you want to get to Carter Hart? 9 of them? 10 of them?
No, I think every other game is what they should be doing.
He's not playing every other game. McKenna's only played once, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. But he'll play more when they're playing more. Like, I think they're going to limit him.
We don't know that yet. I don't know about that.
Like 2 games a week, I would limit him to. Okay. Yeah. So if they're playing 3 games in a week, then he's going to play 2 of the 3. But if they're playing 4, then
as a beginning, just so you could see. So Saturday, February 2nd, Edmonton. The 4th, Vancouver. Then they have a few days off against the Kings, and then day after that they play Anaheim. Day after that they play Pittsburgh. The next night they play Minnesota. I don't know if McKenna's playing 5 games by then. I don't think so. I don't get the impression.
And
maybe Suarez is back then. I don't know.
I have heard and it's a tough comparison to make, but I've heard the comparison based on how great Carter Hart was as a WHL goaltender, and Carey Price, who was a 5th overall pick and great in the WHL as well. Even Carey Price.
Oh yeah.
He came out of junior. He played a couple games in the AHL. Then he played the entire playoffs. They won a Calder Cup championship, 22 games. Then he played 10 games the next year in the AHL, and then he was ready for the NHL. Right. And it took him a little bit of time to get ready for the NHL. So only at age 21, after he had gone through 4 rounds of playoffs, did they think that he was ready. And that's all I'm saying. It's like there is no rush here. This team is not winning anything right now.
If you think Minnesota's big and they jammed the goalie, which they did a very good job of that.
They did.
How's Boston going to do tomorrow night?
I know. No, and but he's got to learn. Like
he doesn't have to learn at 20. That's my.
And he doesn't have to. And he doesn't have
in a playoff race, and the Flyers were definitely expected to win something right now. It would be a little bit different of a story, but you're getting 3 NHL games basically to play this kid.
And he doesn't have to learn in the NHL because there are NHL players or players who have played in the NHL in the American Hockey League. So,
Yeah, but also the other thing about Carey Price, which is a good point, but also all around, players are ready sooner now for the NHL than they were back when Carey Price came.
Not goalies, and not defensemen.
Can't prove it for goalies. The next youngest goalie is Mackenzie Blackwood at 22, and I think he got overused at the beginning, and he ended up on the IR.
Yeah. Look at the statistics, and I don't have them in front of me, but the number of 18 and 19-year-old forwards, the number of 18 and 19-year-old defensemen, and the number of 18 and 19-year-old goaltenders. Right. There are literally none goalies. There are only a few, like Ekblad, who come in at 18, or Rasmus Dahlin, who's a potential superstar. And there are a lot of 18 and 19-year-old forwards. It's definitely positionally.
And the Flyers, in a normal situation, in a normal season where they're fighting for a playoff spots like that, where the goalies aren't all hurt, he wouldn't be up. There's no question about that. But there's a bunch of circumstances that happen along with this, and the only thing you can do out of it is try to get the positives out of it. But I don't know that they're gonna. I mean, are they gonna burn him out? I don't know.
Well, let me just make one more comment about Minnesota. I mean, one factor in terms of their scoring is the fact that Eric Staal is not having the type of year he had last year. He scored 42 last year. I think he's got 13 goals right now. So average that over the season, that's a loss of 15 goals right there. That's the difference between wins and losses. But the problem is, Russ, they don't have the cap room unless they put Dumba on LTIR and he's out for the year. They don't have the cap room to add the scoring that they need.
It's true.
No, and they did go though harder than anybody else after Nylander. So,
well, they may want to contact the Leafs again, but maybe not before the deadline. But maybe
get a UFA, an impending
rental.
Yeah, I mean, and they have in the past. They have been a team that likes to get rentals. They haven't always worked out for them, but they have.
No, but they're going to have to try because the loss of Dumba is I think that's what's got them there right now.
But
there's no question about it in my mind.
There are not a lot of defensemen, rental defensemen in this market. The top 4: Carlson, Tyler Myers, top 3, and Gardner are probably going to be own rentals. They're not going to trade them. Anton Strawman is interesting though. He's been a healthy scratch the last week for Tampa Bay. So I mean, I don't know if he's hurt and they're just not saying, but that's interesting because that guy was a top pairing, top 4. Now all of a sudden he's out of the lineup.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so if you saw this or not, it's just a little funny thing on the sideline. So, I'm a big fan of Reddit. There's a lot of stuff on Reddit. There's really great, there's great stuff on Reddit in general about hockey. And every hockey team has their own little, their own hockey Reddit. And there's a current fight going on between the Minnesota Wild and Reddit, apparently, because the Wildlife Foundation of Minnesota wants the Minnesota Wild Reddit, like I guess basically the Wild websites, from what I understand, like it's Pennsylvania Wild would be the about animals indigenous to the Pennsylvania. New Jersey Wild would be the same thing. So Minnesota Wild should be about Minnesota animals. So it's just a funny little thing that's going on right now. For what it's worth. And so if you go to the Minnesota Wild Reddit right now, because that was going on, it's nothing but like the first several posts are people by the actual hockey fans trying to like post as, this is a Minnesota Bobcat, and then talking about hockey stuff after that. So it's pretty interesting. It's just kind of like
I will give you this. The one thing that Hart has going for him is the Bruins have only averaged 2.26 goals per game on the road this season, but still that's against like veteran NHL goalies. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's played so far. He's done pretty well against.
I think he's done well, but I don't think he's done great.
He hasn't done great, and he is 20. So I mean, the question is what he is. do we have to like just jump him in to things when he's ready to shut out teams, or can we go when he's ready to have like 2 or 3 goal games, at least giving the Flyers a chance to grow the kid?
Well, yesterday was a 4-goal game.
Yeah, no, it was a 4-goal game, no question about it. But like you said,
but it could have been a 5 or a 6-goal game.
Yeah, he's a big reason they won the game. Still, I mean, he still has had a big part in that win,
and that's really important for the Flyers right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it is because it gives him confidence. Like he knows he gave up 4 goals, but he also knows that he was part of helping them win that game. So
now, one thing,
the Flyers also, by the way, would just throwing out there, have placed Del Weiss on waivers while we're in the Flyers. We'll move on from that. I'm really not surprised. This I thought should have happened.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're whistling Dixie if they think somebody's going to claim him with his salary.
No, I don't think they think anybody's going to claim him. I think they're going to actually start using the minor leagues a little bit. They've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and they haven't really done anything as far as calling guys up. And so
they really should be calling guys up.
So maybe this is the start of it.
Well, I have to give Russ some credit because legitimately. You've been talking of Binnington for a couple years.
Yeah.
And now Binnington comes up, and I think he's won 3 games in a row. And, the team that a lot of people thought and they probably still are going to sell off pieces because I think they still want to change the culture there. I don't know if it's going to be Tarasenko or Pietrangelo, but I think they're going to trade players before the deadline because they've done that before, especially rentals. But Binnington it's a small window, and I think he's 24 or 25 right now, Russ.
A little older than 25.
But there might be your goaltender, and he's been under your nose all along.
Yep. And I think it's, again, we talked about the shared affiliation and all those different things, and he got moved around, and even I was sort of like wondering what the heck's going on, and now you can see it. Yeah, I think this gives them the ability to move Jake Allen. If this doesn't, nothing will. Like, it's just really the way it is.
Yeah, and we've been talking about him forever, Russ, too. I've always been a big fan. I'm not going to try to, not that you would ever give me credit, Mike, but I've also been saying.
No, you have.
I'm not a prospect person, but this is one I've been told about constantly, and especially through, a friend of the show and website and former hockey writer for us, Darren Pang, who used to, who has told me that this kid is the real deal, and that
He does.
He's been wondering why, he hasn't been getting time up. Why he hasn't.
It took him they gave Ville Husso, they gave Carter Hutton.
Yeah.
It took him long enough to actually give him an opportunity.
Oh, I know. And now he's just incredibly impressive. I mean,
he was second star of the week last week. So
yeah. Oh, I know. You're saying, I mean, for the Minnesota Wild fans, I mean, you think they're going crazy about Carter Hart here in Philly. Can you imagine what they're going? I mean, with the problems they've had with goaltending in St. Louis has even been worse than the goaltending problems they've had in Philly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, they have to be, this has to be just the most thrilling thing in the world. And of course, they're playing better now. They've got a chance for the playoffs. They're not as good as the Oilers are right now, but they are playing better.
Oh, brother.
They're behind the Oilers in the standings. But there you have it. So they are playing better for sure. And, a quick fun story here. This is from Reddit, actually. So someone sent me this. I thought this was really great. This is from the QMJHL, which we don't do very often.
And we have some questions in the chat after.
I'm going to go right to the chat room after this. For the first time in league's history, a player has played for both teams in the same game after being traded. I don't know if you saw this or not.
Oh, no, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
But back in November, a match between Gatineau and Quebec had to be stopped with 2 minutes left in the second period because of a blackout. Tonight they completed the rest of the game, and Pierre-Olivier Lacombe was traded last week from Gatineau to Quebec, making him officially the first player in league history to play a match for both teams.
I love it.
Pretty great. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. One of those crazy, trivia questions down the
line. I've heard of players in baseball getting traded in the middle of a doubleheader.
Yeah, right.
That has happened. It has happened.
Their team in the second game.
Yeah, I'll have to research it, but I'm pretty sure it was between the two teams that were playing each other, and they just switched in between games.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty awesome.
Doubleheader. That's exactly how it's happened. All right, so here's the first good question from Slash. Carlson odds on staying with the Sharks. Russ, I say 90%. I just looked at Cap Friendly. They've got 5 UFAs, 5 RFAs. I think the chances are 40% that he stays with them because Pavelski's going to get signed, so they only have $21 million in cap space for next year.
Are you talking past the deadline, or are you talking about next summer?
We're talking next year.
Oh, okay.
Past the deadline, he's safe. I don't think anybody thinks they're trading him now. They're not trading him now. But with $21 million in cap space, Pavelski is going to suck up 9 of that. So then you've got Donskoy. They're probably going to keep Donskoy for at least 3. Then you've got guys like LeBanc and a few other RFAs that you're going to sign to some bridge deals.
Yeah.
And they can't give a big contract to Erik Karlsson unless they move another player.
No.
No, they're stuck because of the Pavelski deal, basically.
I mean,
a 1-year thing. Like Keith Yandel was a 1.5-year thing with the Rangers. This is a let's try and win it with Karlsson thing, and then that's it.
I mean, Joe Thornton is going to be another.
He's going to retire.
Yeah,
probably.
That's $5 million right there.
I mean, I wrote about this a little while ago in December, and because I talked to people when this trade was initially made. The people, my sources in San Jose, said they were going to re-sign him, and they were going to do so in January or February when they could, because they couldn't until then.
Right, after the deadline.
Because of the rules. No, because there was a rule that wasn't even after the deadline. It was the rules until January, right?
That's the rule. After February 25th, they can sign him to an 8-year extension.
February 25th? I thought it was January. The whole thing was talked about with Tavares before. Remember, we got into that.
Yeah.
And anyway, so then, but I talked to somebody in late December about this, and they said that, although he was starting to play better at that point, and, but he had a slow start, obviously, in San Jose, and then got really hot and scored a bunch of points over a few games, and then got named to the All-Star team, which I still think is wrong. But they told me at that point that it was going to come down to how he did in the playoffs, like that they felt they could sign him, but it came down to the playoffs, and they really got him for the playoffs. That was why they got him. So they really weren't too concerned about with how well he did in the regular season. If he does well in the playoffs, they would find a way to keep him.
Right. Well, and I've heard, basically listening to a lot of other insiders and things of that nature, they think San Jose, and I saw that Doug Wilson made some sort of statement today, I think it was in The Athletic, that, they're open for business in terms of adding. I mean, they're the window for them with the age that they have with guys like Thornton and Pavelski and their contract situations. It would make sense to San Jose if they can finagle more cap space, that they would add a player or two, because they have a legitimate chance. So I mean, if it's rentals, if it's like they did last year with Evander Kane or whatever else, that might be the way they go.
Yeah, and to bring up the fact of the matter is their window is what this is their window. I mean, they have this year.
Well, this is the window.
I mean, this is as good. I mean, they're as good as anybody right now. They're really they look strong. I think the chances are also very dependent on Tampa, because I really do think that, because remember, this has to, Karlsson can say he doesn't have to go back to San Jose. There's nothing that says he has to go back there. So they can't just re-sign him if they want to. They have to agree. He has to agree to re-sign there.
Right.
Probably, like, if he has a good playoff run. I mean, I can't imagine he'd not want to go back there, and because this is a great place to live and everything like that. But he might already have in his mind to go play with Tampa. The problem with that is Tampa might not want him, and I think it might be the worst situation in the world for Tampa to get him. Actually, I think that if I'm Tampa, I don't touch him with a 10-foot pole. As much as I like Karlsson as a player, Tampa, things are going so well for Tampa. Why would you introduce that? Like, you're introducing such a major factor into your lineup.
To complicate it even further, I mean, Tampa's gonna have to probably open up the bank for Braden Point. I mean, knowing them, they'll probably get him for less than he would get anywhere else because of the state tax situation. But he'll probably be making, $8.5, $9 million on a new deal. And if that happens, then I mean, they may have to trade a Tyler Johnson or somebody like that and clear space. But they have some space, but I don't know if they have enough to re-sign Point and sign Karlsson to what is rumored that Karlsson wants on the open market. He wants to make as much as Doughty is making. He wants to make $11 million.
I don't think he's going to get
it. He's not accepting a cheaper deal. I don't believe that for a minute. All right. So Julian asks in the chat room, will Andre Sekera be back this year? It's an Achilles injury. They say it's another 5 weeks before he's ready. So I'm assuming we will see him, barring a setback.
Yeah, they expect him to come back, but
it's an Achilles. Like that's
a really tough one to come back from. It does. He's a really big player for them, so it does matter.
It does matter. I do think you'll see him. I do.
Just to back my little assertion, outfielders Cliff Heathcote and Max Flack were traded in the middle of a doubleheader. This is between the Cardinals and the Cubs. I think it was in the 30s.
Yeah.
So I was right for once.
All right. So BK Ups wants to know, would the Flyers be trading any of their D prospects for scoring? I think we wouldn't call Shane Gostisbehere a prospect anymore. I think he's possibly available still, but they're I see that they're trying to rehabilitate him. Travis Sanheim's done really well now. He's probably gained some currency. I could see his name being floated. I don't know if they'll actually trade him. Robert Hagg has done very well for himself. I think he could be traded.
Yeah, I think
and the only untouchable is Provorov.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, okay. Because his contract, they really are worried about his contract.
Right. I can't say he's untouchable anymore, Mike.
But they still think they can get it done.
I know, but they're not certain. So that to me is not a certainty anymore.
Yeah, which makes it, but if they're going to trade him, that makes a team. It's going to make a team, I really have to go all out to know that they can sign him, because it's going to be a really tough one. I do think Sanheim, with this particular coach, is doing very well. And this coach has shown a lot more faith in them because he had him in
Lehigh.
Julian says, why not send Shane Gostisbehere to Ottawa for Ryan Gzingle? I would say jumping off a building is probably a better option for the Flyers than.
Yeah, they're not going
to. Dzingle's a rental. Why would the Flyers?
And he's also,
he wouldn't.
Although people really like Dzingel, he's getting a lot of points because they don't have much else up there. And people are saying he's getting a lot of points he's not going to get.
Then sign him on July 1.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those are the big things. I would not trade Vlasic. I saw someone mention that in the chat room. I would not do that.
Who? San Jose? No, I mean. Right now, you'd be trading him at his absolute worst value in years because he's having a rough season. I think he's on IR right now, so that would be
a rough season. But it doesn't really matter until you get to the playoffs, And then it's like
right. But if the idea there is trade Vlasic to create space for Carlson and re-signing him, I mean, there are going to be interested teams in Vlasic. But Russ, isn't he making over 8? He's not an yeah. They paid him really. I mean, I love him as a defenseman. He's a great two-way guy, but they really overpaid him. That they'd have to shave a couple $1 million off of that salary to make it worth some teams' while.
All right. So BK asked a really good question. Will the panel be doing the GM trade session similar to earlier in the week?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll do that later in the week. But I do want to comment on the CBA talks that are going on now between Gary Bettman and Donald Fehr, the same Donald Fehr that Dan Carcillo thinks stinks, and I had a Twitter argument. I had to defend Donald Fehr. I never thought I'd be in the doing that, but I did because it was the right thing to do. But negotiations are actually reportedly going well, and we've talked about this 2 or 3 times on the show in the last couple months that we felt like there's not a lot to argue about anymore, and that really, other than you're talking about escrow and
capping escrow. Yeah, capping escrow.
Yeah, and the Olympics, like there's not much else to really talk about. Things are going pretty good. So there is a chance that they follow the lead like Major League Baseball did and hammer out a long-term deal without it ever coming to a lockout, which would be crazy for the NHL considering we've seen so many lockouts. It's hard to say that this will actually happen, but there's optimism right now.
The statement that came out from Bettman that he didn't want to go to war. That was the most optimistic thing because I mean, usually it's the warning before that it sounds like, okay, here we go again. And how many lockouts have we had with Bettman? But I think he's at a point now where, this is probably his last CBA. And I think he wants to leave the league in labor peace. And if there are a few tweaks that can be made, I mean, I'm sure that, maybe something with entry level contracts, something with the, I don't know if they want to go down that road or go down the road of the second contract, putting the caps on things of that nature.
I think they're really, I mean, from what I understand, the entry level, I mean, the players hate the entry level contract, obviously, but that's something.
Wait, you know what, Ecto, here, when the NFL used to have slotting in the draft, right?
Yeah.
It was the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. No, it's terrible.
Because if a team drafted the wrong guy in the wrong spot, you overpaid him for years. As an example, Jay Cutler made more money than he ever should have made in the NFL as a result. And he sort of, I don't want to say he laughs about it on his reality show with his wife, but he literally doesn't do anything. He doesn't have to do anything ever again. So you don't want to see it be like that with players and give them almost no reason to have to get up in the morning because they're so well compensated that, hey, why am I even trying hard? I might get hurt.
I mean, the only NHL bomb that they could throw out there would be guaranteed contracts, right? And that's like if the NHL
did away with them,
that we don't want to have guaranteed contracts anymore.
Right.
And you have then
That's
you'd have
not-
yourself in the air. But I don't see them going that way yet.
No, that I don't think that's a non-starter. But I think that with the explosion of the second contract here with Matthews, Marner, Ranton, and all these guys coming up, all of them, I mean, some of them have had 1 year, some of them have had 2 or 3 good years. And them making as much as somebody like Taves, where he gets $10 million after winning 3 Stanley Cups, I think the PA. I mean, the owner. I know the ownership probably has problems with that, but maybe the PA and some of the rank and file, some of the veteran guys have a problem with guys 21 years old making $10 million.
Well, like Steve James says, 5-year max deals. That's not going to happen.
No.
Players want more than that. Agents want more than that.
Yeah. That's kind of like almost like a guaranteed contract type.
That used to be the thought of the owners like that. The only thing I could see changing is the draft going to a 19-year-old draft.
18 for the first round and then 19 after.
No. I think it could be 19 overall.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think it should. And I think it should be because if you think about it, the last couple of drafts, teams have been drafting a lot of overagers. The Leafs are a good example of that.
Yes,
and this year, there's some good overagers in the draft. And teams are doing that for a reason. The reason is it's shortening the cycle a little bit for them to get to the NHL based on body development.
And it's less risky.
Yep.
Don't you think, though? I mean, when you think about some of the guys who come in at 18 who are just so dominant in the NHL right away.
How many are really dominant when they come in at 18?
I mean, not many, but don't you think
talking about 5 in the last 10 years?
Well, what if you were to say the first 10 picks and it could be 18 years old or something like that? Because there are some players that it feels like
No, let them go play overseas for a year. I say, let them go play in college. Let them go play in the CHL. Let them go play somewhere else. For 1 year, it won't kill them. I think if they do a 19-year-old draft, you'll see some more players going overseas to get paid. Fine, let them do that.
Yeah, and remember, this is not unprecedented. It was a 20-year-old draft.
No, I think for the most part it should be 19. I 100% agree. I wonder about first round.
When Gilbert Perreault was drafted by Buffalo in 1970, he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, if we saw 19,
go look at the NBA, right? How many players, because they have to get drafted right out of college, whenever they leave college, or right after they get out of the D League for a year, how many times are they not ready for the NBA? I'm going to say, off the top of my head, probably 60% of those guys drafted barely have any impact the first year. Like, once you get past the 10th, 12th pick in the NBA draft, those guys have very little impact that whole season, and a lot of times that next season too. And they're paying them big money. Like, why?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, Russ. I had heard that remember the NBA allowed players up until the recent CBA and the change where they had to go a year in college, that they had it where you could draft a high school player in the first round, but then the second round it had to be somebody who had been in college for a certain number of time. I thought maybe the NHL would go to an 18-year-old draft for just the first round, because then it would let exceptional guys like Matthews, like McDavid into the league right away, and then the rest of the rounds would be 19.
I do want to bring this up too. I don't think it's ever happened. Mike and I were sort of racking our brains. I don't know for sure, but Jack Hughes tried to get exceptional status in the CHL and the Canadian Hockey League, and they denied him. And that is a big reason why he has never played over there. And I kind of wonder, would they ever give an American player exceptional status?
That's a really good question. I mean, they should. There's no reason they shouldn't.
They should. I mean, we all think they should, but they denied Jack Hughes, who at underview.
That's the reason that they denied Jack Hughes. It really is.
Here's an example with Jack Hughes. When I was covering, I forget what tournament, might have been the World Juniors, might have been. No, it was the USHL Kickoff Classic 2 years ago. Everybody went flocking to go see the under-17 games with Jack Hughes in it. And that's how dominant he was at that age group already. And they couldn't give him exceptional status. And
that's I did not even know they knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a question there for me about Hamilton to Montreal, but from Julian. There's still going on. I talked about it today in my blog. The rumors are still out there that Montreal is pursuing getting Dougie Hamilton, and
I'm not at all puzzled why the Leafs aren't interested.
Yeah, I know I am, but you aren't, and that's just that's a discussion we had yesterday, so we won't get back into it. But I still think that makes, I don't know why I don't think Dougie Hamilton's as bad defensively as Mike seems to think he is.
No, but maybe he's not, Ack. But what I'm saying is they have enough defensemen who are challenged defensively that they just don't need to pay a premium for a great defenseman overall in Hamilton who just adds to their problem. They need somebody who can play both ways. They need to have somebody who can play with Morgan Riley and move Ron Hainsey down and lessen the responsibilities of Zaitsev and Gardner. That's the only way they take a step forward on their blue line. And that may not be possible if Pietrangelo is not available. I don't know if there's a player out there that can solve all their problems. So we'll see.
We do have to get going. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks again in the chat room for joining us. Thanks for going to Patreon at patreon.com/hockey, which is where you can support the show and keep us commercial free and keep us going as well. We really appreciate those who do support it. It's awesome. And so just go to patreon.com/hockey. You can give $1, a nickel, a quarter, whatever per show or per month or whatever.
$1 million. I'll take $1 million.
It all helps a lot. Okay. But that's all we have time for today again. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.